Howdy folks, welcome to another beautiful sunny day out here in West Vancouver. I wonder when I'm going to have to stop saying that, because I'm pretty sure the rain in the winter is coming very soon. But today was an amazing day. Sun was out, it was 27 degrees, no wind, it was just awesome. Any which way. Today I want to talk about foreign students or international students and how important it is to the Canadian economy and you know, some of the issues with it at the moment. I just came across this report and I thought it's fascinating. Do you know that foreign students brought $6 billion in tuition fees into the Canadian economy last year? Just the tuition fees, think about it, $6 billion that came into Canada from foreign students coming to study here. But I mean, if you think about it, I think at UBC, the fees for an international student to study here on a study visa is 33,000 Canadian dollars. I mean, that's a lot of money, whereas a local student only pays $6,700. That's quite a big difference. I mean, that's 5 times as much for international students. You know, they were saying that, oh, that's just in general, that's not UBC. Sorry, I got it a little bit wrong. That's just the average fees at the universities in Canada. UBC specifically, last year they brought in $545 million for international students and only $375 million from local students. So I mean, that's more than half. That's almost, 70%, 60% of their revenue came from international students. So it's really important, isn't it? What was it? They said in Ontario, if I remember correctly, 30% of the students at the University of Ontario was international students, and they brought in 68% of the fees for the university. I mean, that's a lot of money. So you can see how important that is. But that's not the only reason why it's important, because obviously another thing that happens is if you are an international student, if you studied in Canada, when you finish your studies, you get a fast-track option to actually become a permanent resident. And I remember I made that video about why Canada needs immigrants. I mean, Canada needs immigrants to survive. What was it? I saw an interesting fact the other day. Do you know that the reproduction rate in BC, British Columbia, is the lowest in Canada? And it actually works out to, I think it was 1.06 children per female in their lifetime. So in other words, in British Columbia, kids are not replacing their parents. For every 2 parents, there's 1 kid. And you know, you can see how that quickly leads to a population collapse and how it leads to a workforce collapse over not too much of time, you know, over 1 generation, suddenly you don't have enough people. So that's why immigrants are super important. And what are the best types of immigrants? Immigrants that still got their whole working life ahead of them. People that were smart enough to come and study here, to finish their qualifications. So, you know, I mean, it's like the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. It's like the perfect solution. So bring international students in, study, and the ones that finish and qualify, give them permanent residency and give them citizenship so they can stay here and they can help to build the country further. Anyway, so that's why Canada loves international students. I mean, number one, they bring in a crap load of money, and number two, they build that future workforce. They build that future force that's going to drive the economy of the country. Anyway, but so yeah, there are a couple of problems with it though, obviously, because as everybody knows, even from our own experience, there's a huge backlog in visa applications, and now the same is going for the student visa applications. So some of the universities and some of the people are getting really aggravated about that, because it's like, this is directly costing us money. Although they are trying. I mean, I think they said up till the end of July this year, they processed 360,000 international student visas, and they expected to finish another 108,000 in August. That's a lot of international students. That's more than 6 billion again. But anyway, so yeah, they're working really hard at that, and they are actually prioritizing international student visas because of those reasons. You know, they bring in, and remember, when we say they brought in 6 billion, that's just tuition. That's not the fact that they're going to come over here, they're going to rent an apartment, they're going to eat, they're going to get a car, they're going to do a whole lot of other things that brings more money into the country and builds up the economy. Anyway, what was it? They said something like, if I remember correctly, in 2021, 157,000 international students became permanent residents in Canada. So, you know, there's definite benefit in it. And that's a way for people to get to where it's better, I guess. Any which way, I thought it was interesting. I thought hopefully you guys would enjoy that as well. So international students are really important to Canada, and Canada needs to really bump up the processing times of the international student visas so that they can get more of these smart kids in here. Wow, that was the other thing they said. It's like, actually, you know, a lot of those international students that come to Canada come here to study math or science or technology. So those are the leading subjects. They actually make better employees, or, you know, those are the fields that are the most needed. And of course, during the pandemic, Canada actually started getting a little bit ahead of everybody else, because Canada still processed visas and still tried to bring international students in, where a lot of our competitor countries like Australia kind of shut it down completely. Australia, Britain, a few of those places. And a lot of those guys are actually now picking the slack back up, because they are realizing that the lack of international students are causing them problems. It's costing them money, and it's costing them talent. You know, the US have kind of let down on a lot of their regulations so they can bring in more international students. Australia has scrapped their regulations that made it impossible for international students to come in. The UK is starting to offer more options for students. So students are important. Anyway, guys, you all must have a good one. Cheers.